Welcome to Organizational Behavior. I'm Dr. Alan Bogard. The specifics around organizational behavior that we are going to be considering in the next while is that of power and influence. Here's a question for you. Do you do the right things for the right reasons? And I'll be coming back to that in a moment. Our outcomes for today include the following. We are going to, at the end of the session, be able to very easily identify the sources or forms of power and influence. Our case study will include understanding how to effectively influence people to achieve organizational strategies and goals. I said I was going to go back to the question, and the question was, do you do things for the right reasons? When one considers the topic of power and influence, what immediately springs to mind are the notions of aggression, assertion, and non-assertion. Let's start with aggression. Aggression is when you seek to win at another person's expense. So aggression could be defined as seeking to win, seeking to promote your own cause, sometimes at the expense of another person's individual rights. That's what aggression would be. It would be putting your case across in such a way that it is normally to the detriment of the wishes or desires of another person. And that would essentially constitute a win-lose situation. Secondly, I want to talk for a moment about assertion. Assertion could be defined as the following: standing up for your rights, but in a way that it doesn't violate the rights of another person. In essence, what we're doing there is we are promoting a win-win situation versus a win-lose. Another word I'd like you to consider would be that of non-assertion. So if aggression is win-lose and assertion is win-win, non-assertion is essentially lose-lose, because non-assertion is really not standing up for your rights or for the rights of another person. And no creative alternative is explored, and ultimately that relates to a lose-lose situation. So as we consider the enormity of the field of power and influence, I'd like you to think for a moment about somebody that has influenced you. And hopefully as you picture that person in your mind's eye, you thought of somebody that influenced you positively versus negatively. I've had people that have influenced me both ways, but essentially what I try and do is I remember the positive influences and often seek to share those same influences or influence other people positively. Think of a way now in which you can influence somebody in your immediate sphere or your social circle positively. Who can you influence positively? I want to take us back now to what we actually mean by power and influence. I'm going to start off with defining power. Incidentally, the dictionary marginally differentiates between power and influence. In fact, some dictionaries actually state that influence is power. However, consider power in the light of the following. Power is the potential or ability to influence decisions and control resources. Power is the ability to change behavior of others, to change the behaviors of others, to perform actions that they might not otherwise perform. And can you see how when you're exerting power over people, in many respects you are in fact influencing. Hence it's so difficult to differentiate between power and influence. However, let's look at what influence typically is defined as being. Influence is the ability to alter another person's perceptions of a situation. So it's not so much the actions in respect of that situation. It's when you influence, it's more subtle. You're influencing the way that they're actually perceiving that situation, the way that they're actually feeling about that situation. So immediately there's a whole lot of intent and trust involved. If you're going to be able to influence a person's perception of a matter, then they are relying on you to a certain extent. And if people are going to rely on you, it's understandable that there needs to be a trust relationship in place. So again, influence, the ability to alter another person's perceptions of a situation. Influence is a process through which a person attempts to extract compliance from others. So if you want others to be compliant, if you want others to support a particular idea of yours, the skill to use is actually influence. So just by virtue of the fact that I've used the word skill and influence together speaks of a difference between power and influence. Power is something that you exert over somebody, hopefully for the good, but influence is more a skill that you employ to derive the right behaviors and therefore the right results. Influence resembles power but tends to be more subtle and tends to be slightly less direct. Power stems from specific sources or foundations, whereas influence relies on tactics. And influence is a skill which can be developed, it's a skill which you can refine over time, and it certainly improves with practice. It's wonderful to be able to influence situations and influence people. And the more we practice our influencing skill and our skills of persuasion, the more effective we become at those. But it takes an insightful person, it takes a person who's committed to the welfare of others and to improve situations to be able to develop this skill. I'm going to talk for a moment about the sources of power, or the origins of power, so to speak. A lot of power is bestowed on us, a lot of authority and power is actually assumed. But in terms of power, often what happens is, because of our position in the organization, we have what is called formal authority, and we're able to control rewards and we're able to control resources. So we have power because of our organizational position. We also have personal power, and that is a source. It's our personal behavior in terms of our expertise, the respect that we demonstrate for others. Often when you respect others, it's reciprocal, and because they see you as having their interests at stake, their interests at heart, they will actually bestow personal power on you because they see you as somebody that's actually credible. Another source of power is that of situational. Sometimes in particular situations, we tend to be more coercive. Sometimes we have access to information, and because we have access to the information, it's in that situation we have power because of it. And sometimes we have power because of our association in terms of the people that we are in relationship with, and by association we have power. I want to share a model with you right now, which I'm going to put up on the screen. And essentially it's a model that represents an influencing strategy. How do we go about influencing situations? We understand aggression and non-assertion and assertion. We understand the sources of power and the definitions of power. But how do we actually influence situations? Well, the first thing that you need to do if you want to influence a situation, in other words, get what you want, get others to respond positively to what you're recommending, proposing. And it's essentially, as it says on point 1 of the model, is you need to become more knowledgeable. So become very clear about what it is that you want to achieve. And this relates to what is at the core of the model here, and that is meaning and influence. You want to become more knowledgeable. You want people to see meaning behind what you are actually seeking to put into place or seeking to achieve. So the more you become more knowledgeable, the more you're able to articulate it in a way that makes sense to them. In other words, they see the meaning, and therefore you've already created a sense of buy-in. The next thing that you need to do is you need to gain informal support. So now you've become knowledgeable. So you've got this bank of knowledge. You've created meaning in terms of some of the stakeholders. But now what you need to do is you need to gain informal support. So you consider your sources of power, and it may be situational power that you require in this particular instant. It may be personal power that you need to leverage. But what you do is you take your idea and you gain informal support, candid support for your idea. But what happens now is that you have a following. And the more you can communicate from a point of meaning, the more people will buy into what you're saying because it has meaning for them too. So you need to be wise in how you position it. The third thing that you do in terms of an influencing strategy is you campaign for broad support. You've now got informal support. Now you need to increase your sphere of influence. So you take your idea to other people, but remember, it's now supported by others. So you have a broader base from which to achieve that which you're seeking to achieve and to put into place. Essentially, at this point in time, we've become more knowledgeable. We've done our research, we've consulted, we've considered, we've sourced the internet, we have read extensively, and we have become more knowledgeable. And we've become comfortable and confident with what we want to propose. We've gained informal support. We've campaigned for broad support. We have this network in place. We have this bank of information in place. The idea is now to take it to our leaders and to our managers and to get sign-off. These are the folk typically who have veto power, who have authority to make decisions. And once we've gained that from them, because we've again put our ideas across in a way which has been clear, it's been succinct, but we're also passionate about the idea, because one of the best ways to persuade people and to influence people is not with your logic, but with your passion. Throughout history, we've seen that great leaders have always persuaded others through articulating what is meaningful. They've articulated what the benefits are, and they've also articulated why they're doing what they're doing. Not just how and what, but why they're doing. And when people see that, they tend to be so much more responsive to your ideas, because features and benefits don't drive behavior, but often why we're doing something does. And this is the secret to gaining formal approval. But once you've gained formal approval, the idea is to become accountable. So many good ideas fall by the wayside simply because we've gone through all this work, all this effort. We've considered every aspect of the influencing strategy model, but we've failed to become accountable and to report back on how things are going once we've got sign-off. So in terms of power and influence, you are able now, based on what you've heard today, to increase, to elevate, to heighten your own ability to influence and to persuade people more effectively, simply by working your way very clearly and very slowly and very specifically through the influencing strategy model. Thank you.